Hello, Free Leaguers. Welcome to the first of what we're hoping is quite a few of these sessions that we're calling the Fellowship Forums. This is where we bring on the designers and the folks behind the One Ring Second Edition to kind of give you an overview of all the things that's going on behind the scenes, answer any questions, give you updates, and yeah, we're really excited to do these. We're going to try to do these every other month. So if you are in favor of that, please hit that like button down below. And also, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe. We'd love to have you be a part of our YouTube community here. And if you hit that little bell notification, you'll be notified every single time we go live or upload new content. Yeah, without further ado, let me bring on the two main folks behind the Lord of the Rings Second Edition, Martin and Francesco. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. We will. I'm going to just be behind the scenes. I will let folks know that if you have any questions, we will be taking questions at the end of the session, but we will not be taking any questions until that time. So save all your questions till the end. I'll hop back on and say that, okay, if anybody has any questions, I'll throw them up on the screen, and we'll answer those for a little while at the end. I'm going to leave it for you guys to discuss all the things that you've got going on, and I'll be behind the scenes. If you need me, just holler.
Hello. It's nice to be back here.
Hello, everyone. Yes.
Yeah, I thought we'd, especially with the alpha, there's, I mean, the feedback has been enormous, and for the most part, very positive. It's a lot of fun to see how all your reactions and your thoughts and ideas and the whats and the wows and the everything. So, but we'd like to talk about some of the things that are been discussed more than others in the forums and the discords and everything. So I think I'll just kind of start us off, and then we have the maestro who will be like explaining the thought process and discussing the themes and designs of things. And I think, should we start talking about hope, maybe, since it's such a deep theme of the game, and the changes to it. Would you like to take over?
Sure. Hope. It's interesting how one of the main components of the game has always been a matter of discussion since first edition, since when the game first came out years and years ago. And I remember quite well the same point during the development when we started sharing the rules for the upcoming game. At the time, no one, of course, knew anything about it because it was unreleased at the time. Hope was immediately raising more questions among the players. Of course, it's nothing new from the point of view of a game mechanic. We had hero points since 007 James Bond, the role-playing game from Victory Games, that for the first time that someone tried a mechanic that was highlighting something that wasn't simply your proficiency in something. So something that permitted you to do things that went beyond your standard capabilities. But of course, hope came out as one of the things that we had to have in the game, because it's if you just parse through the pages of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, but especially the Lord of the Rings, you will find that hope is one of the words that recur more often in the text. So it was quite an easy choice for us to go there. Now, what we did with second edition, if who's watching is not familiar with how first edition worked, hope was a pool of points, and every player had its own score, and you could spend hope points to do different things. Mainly, the main mechanic behind it was to invoke an attribute bonus, a bonus that allowed you to correct a failed roll. So if you failed a roll by missing the target number, you could spend a hope point to add a fixed number to that. And the fixed number was based on your strength, heart, or wits. Now, what we found, I personally found fiddly and not exactly fitting what was my idea of how that should have worked, was that depending on the characteristics of a hero, the attribute bonus could not be that important in the economy of a role, because you could have, for example, a modifier of +2 if you had a very low stat in the skill you were using. And also it required some calculation, because of course you had to see if you missed, to see by how much did you miss the roll, and to see if your attribute bonus was enough to allow you to get over, to match or go beyond the target number. And all this worked well, and also a lot of players fell in that habit to do it very smoothly. So it worked well during the game. So you might ask, why should we change that if everything went well? But the thing is that it's one of the moving gears of the game system. And with some of the changes that we did, we had to change that too. And the change in particular that we wanted to apply was to make attributes like strength, heart, and wits to be more prominent in the game. In our experience, those three elements were not prominent enough, and so we devised this system where instead of having an impact on your actions only when you spend a point of hope in the mechanic that I just described, they were already built in your possibilities to succeed. So an attribute actually lowers the difficulty of an action. So they always are factored in an action without you even having to think about it. They are there to highlight the strengths and weaknesses of a character. So the mechanic for hope had to become something different based on that. And the other elements that I think made the mechanic for hope weak, not totally weak, but weaker, was that it was not so glamorous. You spent a hope point to bridge the gap between failure and success. But the change was just to get over the target number. It didn't make your success particularly interesting, particularly good, because the way that degrees of success are calculated in the One Ring is not based on your overall total number that you roll, but it's based on the number of sixes you roll on the success dice. So that's why now hope points actually add dice, success dice to the roll, because they don't simply allow you to more easily beat the target number of an action, but they also give you a higher percentage of scoring successes, sixes, that make for a better overall result. I see that, of course, there's some resistance. I totally understand where people is coming from. Of course, we tested this. I tested this. I personally tested it playing the game, and I had other groups playing the game. And because, of course, we were concerned about the change. Because, of course, when you say that if something isn't broken, don't fix it. We had to be sure that we needed changing that. But the thing that we immediately saw, that people got over it very, very quickly. When we had first edition players coming to second edition playing the game, they initially theoretically had a resistance by saying, I don't like this for this reason and that. When they started playing, they just quickly forgot everything about it in one session. They got into the flux, into the smoother way of running the game that is a good part of why we changed rules in second edition. We tried to smooth a lot of the creases that the game had that sometimes provoked some hiccups during the flow of the game. We, in particular, noticed this, for example, because we had to play a lot of games online. And of course, everything that in a game that is fiddly and it goes against a smooth flow of a game is amplified by playing online, because you're not face to face. You don't see the dice rolling. It's a bit harder to keep track of things. So by having everyone just minding their role, by figuring out how many rolls they had to roll, by knowing exactly the target number they had to beat, to match or beat, because it's their own target number. We can go to that other
yeah, we'll get there.
And they had to decide if they wanted to spend hope before the roll, and everything just went well. So we were really reassured by the practical game that the change was a good one. And so I think that, again, part of the resistance is due to that, is due to knowing what was before. I don't think this is going to be very apparent to everyone until they really play it. Also, the new system is very much geared on spending hope, especially when a character is inspired. So when you get 2 dice, not only 1 die as a bonus for a hope bonus. So that's something that really makes a lot of a difference, because also people, I can just bridge a little bit to the target number thing because it's perceived to be too high. If you check the percentage that a character has when he rolls or she 3 dice, because they have a skill of 3. If you roll 5 dice, you're moving from a 62% possibility to beat a target number of an average of 15. You go above 90%. So it's something that really changes completely the scale, and also you're going to profit from the higher number of tanguers on the success dice. So so I don't want to say that you should trust us on that, but I'm pretty confident that what we have it's a smoother mechanic, and of course it ties well to how hope is refreshed, is recovered in the game. And let's just cap this discussion with this. It is interesting to hear that people liked the fact that recovering hope was difficult. This was actually one of the bigger complaints that we had in first edition in the early years, because the fact that the rules weren't that specific on how you could recover hope beyond the fellowship focus and beyond the fellowship pool. So it was something that was a bit too much in the hands of the lore master, and people didn't like that much. Of course, when we design a game, we had to look at a wider spectrum. So I know there's people that love one way of playing compared to another. So there's people that doesn't mind at all to the lore master to have a super control over the game. Some others don't. So we try to make games that work by the way they're written. So if you cannot rely on a very good lore master, or so just an average guy playing the game needs to be able to just play the game without creating or supplying the rules. So in general, I think that all these are small gears that work very well at the same time. So it's a bit hard to just see the big picture when you're reading the game and not playing it yet. So I'm pretty hopeful.
I really think that's one of the key things here. It's easy to read something and kind of think about it in its isolation, and then you have these like kind of white box moments of going through the theory, and and it takes all the gears to make the clock go, basically. But I mean, the discussions on the forums, it's so interesting to see the passion of the fans of the game. It's just amazing, and of course. It's interesting also to see the ones who actually the actual play reports that pop up. They're like testing sessions, and for the most part, I've seen quite a few that just says that we were a bit concerned about this part, or we wondered about this part. But in the end, when we actually played, it kind of worked out well. So that's interesting. And of course, I mean, this we're just telling you that, oh no, it's going to be fine, trust us. But of course, we're also kind of looking at all this feedback, and we are making
Absolutely.
adjustments. So the alpha
Lots.
is yeah. I mean, there's no like major structural changes, but there are lots of like small changes here and there, and there's like a number there and a chart there, and so in the end, the alpha is doing we're the job you're creating for us, but also allowing us to make the game better. It's invaluable. So yeah, thank you very much.
If I can say something about this, about the importance of the feedback. Of course, we were always listening since the game was out years and years ago. So some of our of the people that is actually working on the game now as developers and writing for the game are people that were just fans before, and this is due also, I think, to a fundamental element, a fundamental characteristic of the game system for the One Ring, that it's very much a game system that I wanted to be to allow players to have the key to that, to have access to the game mechanic. It's not and it's a very transparent mechanic. It's not difficult to retro engineer the reasoning behind it if you're interested in that. And so I really like the fact that people is coming up with their own home rules and stuff like that. So there's the One Ring police that is going to tell you that you shouldn't play in one way or another. And it often happened that we looked at actually home rules to see a different way to fix something or to get the same to the same result. Of course, we think that you should try the game as it is first, and then eventually think to how to house rule it. Especially because you haven't seen the big picture, the complete picture yet. There were missing chapters, of course, and so I'm pretty sure that also between this and the fixes that we made, people is going to see something that is tighter, much tighter also than what you saw in the alpha.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see, what else do we have? Well, Hope was one of the big ones, and we did cover, I think, target numbers. Do you want to go in a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I think that target number is a complicated thing, because it's I think that the big challenge that we had seems to have been won in the first place, meaning that we moved the point of view of the target number being like something that is outside the character, applied by the GM and so on, to something that is built in your character. And of course, there was resistance at the time. This was something that was developed quite early on. But again, playing the game showed that it's so smoother and faster for everyone involved, by the lore master and the players, to have the players knowing their target number, what they have to match or beat when they roll their dice, taking out some of the burden of GM in the game. And that's something that I think is very, very important, because if you take out some of the stress from the lore master, you're going to get a better game in general, because the GM is also able to enjoy the game without being too much there checking and controlling if everything is going smoothly and so on. There are still, of course, ways for the lore master to apply external complications to a roll, but I like the fact that when characters are doing something, the main challenge is against themselves, in a sense. They know what is. In life, you don't normally do things without knowing of course, you don't know the percentage of succeeding at something, but you have a fairly good idea, and you generally try when it's very much beyond 90%. I don't see people jumping across, I don't know, something having 30% of the possibility to do it. So,
well, I've been to YouTube. I've seen a few things.
But in any case, the TN is more about, and I've seen people that realize that handling the difficulty of a role is more about you pooling your dice with everything you have available. And also, it's a way to, and that's something that I took a bit from some of the games that Free League did in the past. So to stress the fact that you shouldn't roll all the time. You really shouldn't roll all the time. And especially not everyone should roll all the time. Whenever there's something happening and you have 5 players, they shouldn't all roll. So the game mechanics right now, and I hope people will read what's written in the action resolution chapter, not simply how the dice are rolled, but also what we say about when to roll and why you should roll. You really see that if you have a very lousy TN because you have a very low stat in that case, like you have an 18 target number in something, and you have a 1 success die in a skill, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't roll. It's not for you to do it. Let someone else who's more proficient in that to do it. And that should be the general philosophy behind this. It's playing up the strengths of the characters. And also we have rules for support that should be that also help in that. We have useful items, so you have ways to compensate for a bad TN. Then again, the other thing, of course, we juggled for a long time, and people who has followed the development of the game know that very well. Know that we were undecided between having the TN with a formula that has 18 or 20 minus your stat to find out the TN, and we decided for 20 for one reason especially, and that is character growth. If you go to a low TN since the beginning, giving a very good percentage or a good percentage at least to characters with general range of abilities, you're going to see that scale very badly in a short while. Because when people start having 4s in their skills, if you have 18 minus characteristic, it's going to be too easy very fast. So we thought with 20 that is suitable to a campaign game. It might be something that we could add there, or maybe in an article about how to play the game, or in suggestions and stuff like that. You could probably apply an 18 if you're just playing one-shots or short games, or you're playing with pre-generated characters and stuff like that. If you don't want to face the additional challenge of a TN that is too high right off the bat in the beginning of the game, you don't want to be punished by that, go for with an 18. But if you're playing the long game, if you're playing a campaign, you should stick with the 20.
That's a good point, actually. I mean, because again, especially with some of the new changes, I think the One Ring is even more of a campaign game these days. I mean, you have the air to take care of and everything. So yeah. Right. Let's move on. What do you think about talking about maybe let's say combat and weapons? I think combat hasn't changed all that much. It's a little bit here and there, but there's been a few changes to weapons, especially that edge has disappeared, which I think raised a few eyebrows there.
Oh, okay. The main reason for the discussion is that we got rid of the edge stat in the weapons. I loved the edge stat in the game because it was one of the dials that allowed us to make weapons be very different in the game by having a damage stat, an edge stat, and an injury stat, and an encumbrance, now load stat. So there were things that you could min-max continually and make different and also, of course, special damage, even if it was cold shots in the past, and that was not working well. But so you could have weapons that were more more capable of inflicting lasting damage if they got a piercing blow, but the piercing blow was harder, and so on. But that was one of the mechanics that, in the long run, seemed to be not necessary. I mean, we could try and find a good differentiation between weapons without having edge. Also, because edge was really an exception to the game mechanic in general. Normally, you don't look at the feed die result unless it's oh, of course you look at it to compute and to make the total, but of course it's less important to know exactly what you scored there. I know that players of the One Ring got what I meant, but in any case, so going to have edge removed created a problem with the differentiation of weapons. And what you got in the alpha was an early version of the weapon stats. So you're going to see a difference with the final document, because we've been tweaking, for example, the pierce special damage, how it works, and we've been tweaking the injury numbers and damage numbers to make weapons actually different and not simply scale like axe, sword, and spear as a sort of top rating and quality of the weapon in general. So you'll see a better and improved range of modifiers and stats for the weapons in the next iteration.
Yeah, and I think it's I mean, the discussions about which weapon is best, that's going to be going on forever. It doesn't really matter. But it's interesting to see how the weapons can be seen as different kind of tools depending on the opponent you're facing, the adversary. So it's not always just which one is the best, but which one fits this particular enemy. So
yeah,
we do have
we had that thing in first edition, but it was I mean, I loved first edition, of course.
Yeah, well,
but and I know that a lot of people played it to the satisfaction and so on. But there were things that were just, again, as I said, some creases that could be smoothed. And one of those were, for example, the way how great size worked with the adversaries. That basically meant that everyone had to take out their spears at a certain point in combat to just try and score that piercing blow against the troll that otherwise wouldn't go down. So we're changing that and changing in a game that is very much interconnected. I'm talking about the game mechanics of the game. They're so tied to each other. When you move something, you need to fix all the rest, and so the efficacy of weapons is tied also to the way that the adversaries are built, and so it's something that we're still checking because it's the part that, of course, needs more attention and more practical application of the rules. Checking all the adversaries and then the weapons. So that's something that you're going to roll very much more often than other things. It's more delicate. So we're keeping an eye on that. And of course, I appreciate that people was able to just spot very quickly what was going on and what needed extra attention.
Yeah. All right, so that covers weapons and I think a little bit of combat there. We'll talk about the 3 pillars, which we have journeys and councils as well. How about the changes to journeys? Because that's quite a big change from first edition. And I remember, I mean, I've been playing first edition since the release, and I remember even back then how there were some criticism about it could just be like a string of dice rolls, and when you get over the hex map, unless you kind of really get into it, and really it can feel a little bit like you just roll and gain fatigue and stuff. So second edition, quite a big change. Let's see the thoughts behind it.
Yeah, well, Yes, in that case, it's another example of it's another example of how you need to keep an eye on feedback from the people, because of course we've seen. I don't know. Not everyone knows that also the journey rules had many different iterations, because for a while I also published online on a page that I've forgotten even where it is right now, but I had some alternate versions of the journey rules, and it's due to I mean, this uncertainty about exactly how to make them was due to the fact that the goal of the journey rules was fairly simple in the beginning, and was to give a reason why characters in the Lord of the Rings go around without wearing too much armor. And that was that was really where everything started. It wasn't meant to be a sort of a wandering monster or a random events generator. It was really meant to give you a mechanical reason why, of course tied to the fact that characters in the Lord of the Rings journey a lot. But and of course that was meant to represent the source material as much as possible. But the other thing was, really, everyone knows that in a role-playing game you're going to push on a game mechanic as much as you can if you can get a profit out of it. So one of the things that makes combat in role-playing games more prominent, especially in role-playing games like with ancient or middle age type of background, it's that you can be bad at some, I don't know, communication skills, but normally that doesn't kill you. While being bad in combat can kill you, and fairly quickly. So if you can stack up on armor and shields and a bigger shield and a bigger helm and so on, you will do it, regardless of. I mean, not every player will do it, I know, but it's like what they say when someone says about also board games that that game is good for the right crowd. Any game, even the lousiest one, is good with the right crowd. But that doesn't mean you don't have to limit yourself to that by hoping that the game will be played only by the right people, by the Tolkien enthusiasts and by the people that breathe Tolkien and know exactly how to do it, because they wouldn't even need my game to play the game.
Yeah, that's right.
If they know they can do that with D&D, they can do it with any game system, Savage World, whatever. They don't need a custom system to play it in the One Ring, because they know how it works. So when you design the game, you have to, in some ways, put limits. Limits is everything. Creativity is all about limits, and with game mechanics is the same. If you want players to conform to a certain idea that is not mine, is what we think. What I think is the spirit of the Lord of the Rings. You need to make some things, not, I don't mean impossible, but at least hard. So why not everyone in the Lord of the Rings go about with chainmail and big tower shields and so on? Because of course they're going to be incredibly tired by the time they meet the Balrog. The Balrog is too much, but when they meet something. So that was the original reason why we had load rules and encumbrance in the other one, and so on. So that's why we made the rules for traveling like that. But again, they didn't work as perfectly as well as we wanted. They required too many die rolls. There was an excessive importance for the travel roll, for the travel skill. Everyone who played a couple of games of the One Ring would tell to the new guy, when you do the character, put 3 dots in travel. So yeah, of course. And when you have a choice that is a no-brainer, it's not a choice anymore. So something needs to be done to counter that. So the new game system, mainly the new game mechanic for journeys, mainly got rid of the best part of the rolls. You don't have to roll as much as before. We also simplified a lot, and you will see, because we recently had the new version of the traveling map. You will see how easier it is also for the lore master to see the distance you go, how long does it take for you to get to your destination, and so on. So everything was done to get the same result in a much faster and smoother way. Also, at the same time, we tried to make it as flexible as possible. This means that if you want to just play the journey during a session in a fast way, in an efficient way, just to see what happens before you get to where you're going, you can do it. It's easy, it's fast, you can do that. You can have a couple of hints and how to enliven the journey. But if you want to do that, you're not forced to play out every day of the traveling phase, let's say, of the journey. So instead, if you're into that, if you want to make the journey phase, the journey rules, a good part of the game, and that's what I like, because sometimes I like to play games without much preparation. So I know that we can get a good part of a session, of a fun session of play, if we just lean into the journey rules in a way that is more descriptive and so on. You can do it. The game master can do that very easily and very flexibly. So of course the rules work, all the information you need from the point of view of the game mechanics is there, but like everything else, it leans on the game group. It depends on the game group if you want to do much out of that. Let's just make an example. If you play a fight in any role-playing game, if you just apply the game mechanics, it's going to be roll, hit, miss, parry, roll, hit, miss, stuff like that. If you don't inject anything into that, it's just a sequence of rolls. The same will happen with the journey rules if you just look at them as, okay, I'm making my marching roll, I'm the guide, marching roll, okay, the next event is 2 days from here, what it is, okay, it's a mishap. If you just do that, it's boring, like combat is boring in any game, but luckily it's a role-playing game. So so we're hoping that those rules give you enough reasons to flesh them out, as you do with combat, as you do with the naked rules for action resolution. So
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, no, I think we haven't, of course, you guys haven't seen it yet, but I think the journey log that you'll be using for journeys, that kind of also brings a kind of interesting element to the game, since it creates a little bit of a chronicle of your journeys. You kind of you draw your little thing where you go, and you add little details of, like, for example, what was the mishap, you might add it to the map and stuff like that. So I think it's it brings a little bit of a chronicle to everything.
Yeah, we came up with this idea just to explain it to people who didn't notice that in the rules, that when you do a journey, you use a small sort of a resolution sheet where you put everything. You make a small map of the journey, and you keep track of things happening. And again, that can be as nice as you do it. I mean, if you can just draw a line that is like 7 inches long, 7 hexes long, because it's 7 days of traveling, or you can actually copy the traveling map and actually put the right direction that you're taking with the road, and add also small details if you want to. That came out of an idea that we had, that that I think that everyone who's been playing for a while with role-playing games know how cool it is to look at your old stuff with your role-playing games, when you find your old character sheets and so on, and you look at the back of the sheets where you have notes about what you played before. the journey log is going to be that. It's going to be something that has shows proof of things you've done, because you can compile one for each journey if you want, or multiple ones in the same, but generally you will compile one, so it becomes a journal of the deeds of the company.
Yeah, it's something I'm really eager to see what people come up with there, because I'm sure most of us. I mean, I'm when I'm drawing, it's like, but knowing the kind of creative forces that are playing this game, I mean, there's going to be some pretty cool journal logs, I'm pretty sure. Finally, let's just this like it's a small thing, but it's this generated some discussions. But the renaming of Inspire and Search, was it Search?
Was Search?
Scan?
Was Search?
Yeah. Scan and Hearten, which of course, I mean, it's straight from the books. So yeah,
it is. But of course, Martin, because you before the forums started to record the reaction to that. You yourself asked me about it, because of course it sounded strange, but there are reasons as always. But let me explain them. Enhearten in place of Inspire. In that case, we needed to change Inspire for a very simple reason, that a game mechanic, an important game mechanic in the game is Inspire, to be inspired. So to have a skill that has exactly the same word for something that is not doing that, because you cannot roll Inspire to be inspired, it's a different mechanic. We had to find a different name. So and Inspire was so completely, totally fitting to what we wanted with the new Inspire mechanic. So we couldn't find something else like Exalted. I don't know, didn't fit as well as Inspire. So Inspire had to go. Enhearten is in the Lord of the Rings, and it's used exactly to that effect. I totally see the fact that it sounds strange. So people have been proposing Hearten instead. I am a bit wary of that, because Hearten is incredibly close to heart itself, the stat. That of course it's connected. It's the same. It's in the same group. But I don't know. Makes me a little bit uncomfortable to sound so close to that. Heart and Hearten. I don't know. We're very close to the point where we won't be able to change anything. So probably in the next few days we will have to think hard about things like that are going to have repercussions in the whole rulebook, of course, because when you change a name of something, you have to check, and you don't want to generate new mistakes. For Search is a different thing. Search, it was always a bit of a problem to really get the difference between Search and Explore. Search and Explore were too close, and we meant different things. We wanted Search to mean something that is more. That was, for example, to be used when you were inside instead of outside, and Explore to be more open. And also Search had to be the counterpart for Awareness, where Awareness is a sort of a passive perception, where Search was meant to be the active perception. So by changing the name to Scan, that is used rarely, but it's used in the Lord of the Rings, was meant to do exactly that, to make the difference between passive perception and active perception. So I know that to everyone but Tolkien, probably Scan sounds very modern, sounds very electronic. So we had some very nice suggestion from Michele, our developer. I've seen also other suggestions in the forums, but I think that possibly Michele got the nicest one, that is Survey. But Survey, again, like Scan, has a very modern immediate explanation, and that is like a survey. It's like making inquiring about the percentages and then voting polls and stuff like that, making a survey. So, but survey is used in the Lord of the Rings exactly to that effect, as a active perception and so on. I know maybe to some people listening to us now, this may sound excessively, I don't know, picky, and it's very important to us to be very true to the sources. So we really agonize on this, on every choice for words in the game. So I can totally understand why also players that got the spirit of the game are worried when they hear something that might sound not appropriate.
Yeah, it's certainly. I mean, we don't make these kind of things lightly, and there are always discussions about why and how and what kind. But maybe it's time we kind of we reconquer scan for these kind of ages instead of the modern scanners.
Scanning the horizon.
Yeah, we're scanning the horizons for orcs. That's what we're doing. Yeah, I think we might call in Doug here and see if we have some
gentlemen
for the Q&A.
This is I love it. Yeah, the chat has been quite entertaining as well. Thank you everyone that's given commentary. We really greatly appreciate it. It's been very, very positive. Everybody's very excited. I did say that we'll take some questions. I'm going to just pick a first few. We'll only probably be another 10 minutes, so I'll try to get to the ones that were asked probably the first. Greg asks, can you provide any detail around the solo gameplay variant?
Yeah, we should have Sean here, or Matt. Not quite yet. They are both, I mean, if you know solo games, you know Sean Tompkin, who's going to be developing the solo mode for the One Ring, Strider mode. And he's been very busy with Starforge, which is the science fiction version of his Ironsworn solo game. So he's been busy with that, but they have also started working on in earnest with the One Ring system. And yeah, I just talked to him the other day, and it was like, oh, it's so good to finally have properly laid out alpha that I can be using instead of just going through like Word documents, because I hate designing with those, and I understand him. So we will have some interesting things to show you maybe in the next fellowship forum. Or maybe earlier, but yeah, I think at least by then, yeah, for sure.
Brian asks, why not have all the races in the alpha? For example, Rohan, Gondor, etc.
Oh wow, that would be a thick book. I think, yeah, if you want to comment on that, Francesco.
Well, it's always, I mean, players of the One Ring First Edition know how we approached the world of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, and we wanted to offer a view of the world that is as much close to that of people actually living in Middle-earth as possible. And we know as an experience by playing many games in the past and play different games based on the Lord of the Rings before, that if you adopt a sort of an encyclopedic approach to it by saying, okay, you can be a Knight of Dol Amroth, a Man of Gondor, a Beorning, and you offer 25 different cultures, you're basically going to destroy the feeling and the spirit of the game for 99% of the players, because again, there will be people that could be able to play that very well anyway. And again, I reiterate, it's the type of people that don't need a One Ring to play that, because they know how to do it, possibly freeform even, without even rules. But the One Ring First Edition proved that a focused approach, so a narrow approach for many, I like it focused better, but a focused approach is really something that preserves the spirit of the game, because it shows you the perspective of people like Sam Gamgee, who never left the Shire, or again, I wrote that even in the rule book, of people like Gimli, who never even thought that Rohan existed before they got there.
Yeah.
So And that's something. So we read the Lord of the Rings. Many have read the Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales and the History of Middle Earth. So you know everything inside and out. You have to. I mean, what we do is giving you the perspective to go back to the point of view of someone who doesn't know everything in super detail. And I think that we can do that only by giving you options, but not everything at the same time. So we will, as the way I see it, we have the One Ring first edition that was the game about Wilderland, and again we had people complaining about that at first, and then people played for such a long time with long campaigns, multiple campaigns. They enjoyed that. Because they were able to create believable sagas in Wilderland. Now we're doing that again, 24 years later in Eriador, and we're going to pull that off again, or at least try, and give you the possibility to profit as much as possible in a way that is true to the sources as much as possible. We will, of course, eventually give you more. Everyone who was part of the Kickstarter know that we're going to give you the possibility to play the character types that were part of the One Ring first edition, and so yeah, step by step. It takes a long time. Quite a long time. I need to say that we've been working on this game for a long time, but it takes a long time to do it properly. So but again, it's a choice. It's a design choice. It's something that we couldn't really do differently, because without making something that wasn't, in our opinion, true to the books.
Yeah, I think also adding, the more you add to a book, you kind of risk of diluting the focus and getting a thinner soup. So yeah, but of course, I mean, we want to get it there as well. We want to focus on Rohan and Gondor and what have you. But it's tricky, since it's almost like it can be almost like designing a different game. So the one we have right now is the one we want to make, and when we get to Gondor, we'll think about how to do that in the right way. So.
John has a question about the red text in the alpha PDF in color blindness issues, which I know is a popular thing that's popped up on a few Kickstarter and on the forums. So is that something you could address?
Yeah, this is something we're looking at. We're kind of, because the text we've been using, the red we've been using, is basically just taken straight from what Tolkien used to make his, I mean, red little ink marks in his maps and stuff like that. So we kind of went with that for starters, but of course we're aware of the issue, and we want to make it as broadly applicable as anyone. So we're looking at making it a little bit darker and trying out different tones to see which ones is like the best balance of actually having it being available to read for as many as possible, but also trying to stay close to that kind of Tolkien-ish kind of faint red. But of course, accessibility trumps all. So yeah, we're going to have a look at it. Yeah.
We'll probably take one more question. Let's see here. Harlath asks, are you considering any changes to the pace of hope recovery in 2E relative to the alpha? The 2E rules seem to encourage hope use, but the pace of hope recovery is that much higher than 1E. Thanks.
I guess, yeah, the second part of the sentence was possibly that the rules don't seem to be much higher than in first edition.
Right.
Yeah. Well, now, that's another thing that I'm not sure that got through, or it didn't, because we didn't say. One of the reasons why we changed also the physics, the economy for hope, is that to make it work in first edition, a lot of people disregarded the rules for shadow. We noticed that a lot, that possibly there were groups of players where no one ever had a bout of madness, because people were looking at shadow like corruption in Warhammer, and thinking that if some character got some shadow, they were like corrupted and could not be heroes anymore. So a lot of people really thought that hope worked but also because they didn't got much shadow. The lore master, probably willingly or not, didn't give much shadow to the players. What we wanted with the new edition is to make shadow also more prominent, more easily gained during the game, because it is our convincement that the characters in the Lord of the Rings, all of them basically got a level of shadow in their history. Just think about Bilbo in The Hobbit, or Thorin, or and the characters in the Lord of the Rings. So we want to have the shadow element be more prominent, and we change the rules for that to that effect. And so in the same way, Hope could not stay the way it was, because it was more difficult. Apart from fellowship points and the fellowship focus, it was harder to refresh, basically. So right now, I think, at least from our point of view, mathematically, recovering Hope is faster now. I mean, it's more reliable. It's something that, based on the fellowship phase mechanic, it's something that players can count a little bit more than before. It's less dependent on the lore master. It's something that is there. Now, the thing that is probably that, it was something that we didn't set our mind exactly before, was how often the fellowship pool, the fellowship points refresh. And in the alpha, it was once every during the fellowship phase. So we're tweaking that. We're tweaking exactly the number of points you get. But the aim is exactly that: is to have your characters rely on a number of points, and to know that they can spend to hope to a certain amount reliably, without being too much endangered by the expenditure. But at the same time, if they need it, if they need more, they know they enter a more dangerous territory, let's say. So we want Shadow and Hope to be more dynamic, to go more, to reflect more an ebb and flow of a resource, more than something that just goes down and very hardly goes up. So you don't want to get Shadow, otherwise you're going to be miserable, and so on. So that's the general idea.
Yeah, I want more Boromir moments in our games.
Yeah,
I think the new system will kind of bring that. So yeah.
Nice. Well, gentlemen, we're approaching an hour, and we're probably going to call it quits for that for this first Fellowship Forum. I will remind folks that if you enjoyed this, please hit that like button down below, and that lets us know that you would like to see more of these forums. And we'd love to hear all of your feedback and all of your comments, both some even positive things and negative things. So we love to hear both, and we always listen, and that's one of the reasons why we do this Fellowship Forum, is to interact with the community and get your feedback, and let you know that we are listening to you all as we develop this second edition here. If folks want to, if they've played the second edition alpha and they have feedback as far as their gameplay experience, where should they go as to give you some feedback?
Yeah, it's the Free League forums. Just go to freeleaguepublishing.com and head to the forums, and we have a bunch of just for each chapter where you can just insert whatever you find. And then, of course, if you have more of an open question or something you'd like to discuss about the alpha, then you can just open in your post, basically. So yeah, head over there and let us know what you think. There's still a few. It's just I think we said like the deadline is tomorrow or the day after. I can't quite recall at the moment, but yeah. So you still have a little bit of time to get in there and let us know what you think.
I'll also remind folks that if you missed out on the Kickstarter, you can still late pledge. The link for that is in the description of this video as well. So make sure to get that in pronto. Do we have any idea how long the pledge manager is going to be open for, Mark?
It'll be open for a while yet, at least another month or something like that. It kind of is with shipping right now, is everything's floating in the air, so we have to be a little bit careful. But it'll still be a few weeks, so you still have a bit of time there.
Excellent. All right. I want to thank you, gentlemen, both for giving your evening over there. It's afternoon here, so I appreciate you staying up late, and I know all the community that has joined us. Thank you so much. If you made it this far, we really greatly appreciate it. If you haven't hit that subscribe, please hit that subscribe. We'd love to have you part of our YouTube community and make sure that you're up to date on all the things that we have here at Freely Publishing. All right. That's going to do it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. Be safe.
Thank you very much.
See you next time.
We'll see you next time.